Many people think just because my mind is in an altered state means I am having a spiritual experience, but that is simply not the case. Being in an altered state, whether drunk or high, just simply means that you have lowered the defense walls and boundaries that your sober self put up as it pertains to connecting to the beyond. It's a bypassing, and the reason why it's not a spiritual experience is because a quote-unquote spiritual experience is about becoming. So if you're using something outside of yourself to bypass, let's say you have a trigger and you get drunk or high, now your mind is in an altered state. You have forgot about the why on why that trigger is there. So now you can maneuver. But when you go back into your sober state, the trigger immediately reappears. So now, let's say you got some good information from some beings of the beyond. Well, now you can incorporate it, and now you have a crutch. Now you have to rely on the substances that alters your mind. That's why it is not a spiritual experience, because you need not anything outside of yourself. Peace unto you. My name is Nadiie, and today is all about alcoholism and its effects in spirituality. Let us begin. At a foundation, what you must understand about mind-altering substances is it comes from a spiritual insecurity if one relies on them. Now, it's not just the substances itself, it's anything outside of yourself. So, at a foundation, we have to anchor what oneness is. Truly, how does it serve me? See, people don't ask themselves formal questions as it pertains to spirituality. Sometimes they don't feel like they should. Other times they don't know that these questions serve to ask. Questions like, why am I spiritual? Questions like, how is being spiritual going to assist me? Questions like, is this actually benefiting my life? Because if something isn't benefiting your life, I don't care if it's spirituality. I don't care if the most revered master told you to be on this path. If it's not assisting you, then something has to change. Someone who is revered and is an ascended master or a being from the beyond is not going to put you on a path of suffering. You have to remember that when beings put on God's glasses, they're seeing as God sees. As masters, we understand that we don't help people, we don't heal people. All we do is guide you to seeing yourself as God sees you. Well, if I have God's glasses on and I see you as God sees you, which is abundant, which is a being that is void of nothing, then that's my perception of you. So when I speak to you in a way that reflects that you are a master. Well, if you are in need of something and I'm perceiving you this way, and you don't perceive yourself this way, then there is a clear disconnect when you come back here on earth or this third dimension or fourth dimension, depending on who and where you are. So it's about a being process, not a doing process. Oneness. Ask yourself these questions before you start to tackle these type of crutches and codependent type of issues. Because there is a codependent relationship with the outside world and what we feel we must do as people. Not even just people on the spiritual path, people, period. Society has taught us that there's a doing process. Society says you must do this in order to be successful. Society says you must not do this or you won't be successful. That's a doing process. Society says do this and you'll feel this way. Society says if you put on a gold and diamond chain, you'll feel rich. If you listen to billionaires and what they talk about, if you incorporate that in your day-to-day life, then you'll experience that type of life. They tell you, birds of a feather flock together, so have more successful people around you. It's all a doing process. It's all about outside of yourself. It's never about actually changing what's within. And you only change what's within when you realize there is nothing other than you. That's what oneness is all about. It's quite literally understanding that everything is me. Don't limit the way God operates. God is the electromagnetic field that we can't see with our eyes of two. When I blink and the moon rises, that's a reflection of me blinking. When I open my eyes and light is reflecting off my eyeballs, that's the sun coming up, shining light on everyone, reflecting. That's oneness. The blaze of grass is me. When the wind blows, it's my breath. Everything is oneness. A grain of sand is me. This tree behind me is me. Your neighbors is you. Everything is you. Everything is connected. Now, when we anchor that, we ask ourselves the questions, we get to the root of the why we are spiritual, why we feel this path serves for us, then we can get to the alcoholism. Because you have to start focusing on the inward rather than the outward. Because you can go to the outward, but if the inward, if that is not aligned, then you'll just pile on more problems. Alcoholism is an escape tactic your ego has put in place. This is something that I've experienced many times as we, drunk wine and liquor. I drunk a lot of wine and liquor, and sometimes were tests in my later years. In the earlier years, it was just the ego. Peer pressure, that's all of the ego. We realized that when we was going through what people call a dark night of the soul, and we started to get drunk, what was happening is we started to disassociate ourselves from our immediate reality. So the thing about being drunk is you embody the imagination consciousness. You embody it. That's how you feel like you have no repercussions when you do actions. You feel like there's no consequences. You feel free. You feel loose. They all feel loose. I feel loose. That's all imagination consciousness, because imagination consciousness and its root state is actually very beautiful. Imagination consciousness doesn't care about consequences. It doesn't care about what the world says is right and wrong. It just wants to be itself. Whatever comes in, it wants to express it. You see how alcoholism can leech onto that and attempt to taint it. Because you cannot taint God, you can only attempt to. So, understand that when you are drunk, all you're doing is expressing your inner child, but in a quote-unquote toxic way. So all you have to do is figure out what type of boundaries that did my sober self put up before I became drunk. Now, if I still choose to become drunk, which I do not recommend, but if you still choose to, all right, let me figure out if I can put these boundaries back up. Well, if you can't, most likely you won't be able to, because the boundaries are down and you're not even focused on them. Then it's an indicator that this is actually becoming an addiction. This is actually my codependence. It's me relying on the outside energy. There is a energy that is the facilitator of all that is outside, all that is separate. It's a separate energy. And anytime you participate in activities that align with separation, it fuels and feeds this energy, or this being, as some say. So it's your duty as a spiritual master to understand that first I must understand oneness and know that alcoholism, being drunk, being high is just me embodying my inner child on crack, but not actually, incorporating some type of stability or foundation. I'm just not caring. Children don't care, but there is a foundation of, I know, don't do that though. Alcoholism says, no, do that. So that's the effects, and that's how you change it. Incorporate oneness a little more and realize some boundaries are important, and the boundaries that you don't like, they're there for a reason. If you're interested in joining our mystery school, click that link in the bio and DM me first, and I give you our free 3-day course. Because if you aren't willing to integrate at least 3 days with God, why are you trying to join a mystery school? And if you want to book a one-on-one session with me, also click that link in the bio. With that, we say welcome home.